Let's take a trip around the curve. Let's keep our fingers crossed that another strike is not on the horizon as IATSE continues bargaining with AMPTP with more basic agreement talks set for June. Brooke Shields is elected as the Actors Equity President, and Jeffrey Wright is set as Isaac in The Last of Us Season 2. Bradley Whitford and Shea Wiggum join Netflix's Death by Lightning. Lorenza Izzo is set to star opposite Diego Boneta in Prime Video's comic book series El Gato. Dove Cameron and Avon Hojia are set to star in the Prime Video thriller series Obsession. Liza Koshy, Cody Rhodes, CCH Pounder, and Busta Rhymes round out the cast of Naked Gun, the reboot. At Cannes, the Fantastic Five, Neon makes it 5 Palme d'Or winners in a row as Honora scoops up the top prize. George Lucas receives the honorary Palme d'Or from Francis Ford Coppola, and Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis sells worldwide. Netflix landed North America and UK rights to Jacques Audiard's Emilia Perez from the Cannes Film Festival with Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana. Glen Powrll, Anthony Mackie, and Laura Dern are set to be in Monsanto, which pre-sold to Netflix during Cannes. And in more Powrll news, the star is set for a Paramount reimagining of Heaven Can Wait. Universal Pictures announced a new original film created and directed by Steven Spielberg, set for May 15, 2026. Dexter Original Sin cast Patrick Gibson as the young serial killer, with Christian Slater and Molly Brown rounding out the cast. Kyle MacLachlan, Fiona Shaw, and Edmund Donovan join the Apple thriller series Echo Valley. Keith Powers, Kelly Simpkins, Keith Cooper, and Deanna Reed Foster join Forrest Whitaker's Emperor on the Ocean Park. Liam Neeson is set to star in a cross-country car chase movie Mongoose. The George Floyd biopic Daddy Changed the World is in the works from Radar Pictures, A Queen Films, and Media Night Fox Entertainment. Rounds out the cast of Ruben Ostlund's The Entertainment System is Down. Billy Zane's dark comedy Enter Hallway / Night is acquired out of Cannes by Buffalo 8. A24 acquires domestic rights to The Death of Robin Hood starring Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer. Holly Hunter is set to star in Paramount Plus series Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Michaela Cole is no longer developing a series with links to I May Destroy You universe. Sad face. Bridgerton star Nicola Coughlan leads Love and War about a mother's battle to rescue her abducted daughter. Netflix and working title find their Harry Hole for upcoming Joe Nesbo TV adaptation. Lionsgate dates Dave Bautista and Mark Wahlberg movies for fall. Gerard Butler's Den of Thieves Pantera for 2025. Mel Gibson's Flight Risk starring Mark Wahlberg sets an October release at Lionsgate. And Aaron Eckhart and Devon Sawa are traveling down Thieves Highway. Chernin Entertainment is developing a boxing pick Tomato Can with Jamie Foxx's Foxhole to produce. Hitman's Adria Arjona and Edgar Ramirez signed for Jairo Bustamante's El Soberón. Vince Vaughn is in talks to star in 20th Century's buddy action pick Mike and Nick and Nick and Nick and Alice. Lily Reinhart leads social media thriller America's Sweatshop about the dark side of the internet. Samuel Goldwyn Films acquires The Count of Monte Cristo out of Cannes. Vanessa Redgrave and Andrea Riceborough are set to star in Paul Andrew Williams' latest film. Duke Nicholson, William H. Macy, Tiffany Haddish, Stephen Dorff, Jake Weary, and Julia Fox are set for the action thriller The Deputy. IFC Film acquires Memoir of a Snail starring Succession star Sarah Snook. Ayo Itagiri joins the Amazon MGM's The Hunt from Luca Guadagnino, and Car Wash comedy series based on the movie is in the works at NBC with Malcolm D. Lee directing. Today on The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, we are talking fun as we get into the Beach Boys documentary that is streaming over at Disney+. And over at Netflix, we're going to get into J-Lo's latest action-adventure film, Atlas. Plus, we're talking about Brian Wallach and his wife Sandra's struggle and journey with ALS. Plus, Adria Arjona and Glen Powrll are on Netflix with Hitman. And last but not least, Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth in Furiosa, coming up on The Curvy Critic right now.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, a.k.a. The Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your girl Carla Renata. I'm here with a new episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. If this is your first time joining us, sister, give me a big thumbs up to let me know you are here. If you are on the YouTube, if you're looking at this via Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or any other streaming device, subscribe to the channel. You never know what I'm talking about. You never know who you might see. I don't have any live guests today, but I have a bunch of reviews for you. Okay. Okay. But usually, before I get into it, I talk about what I did the week before. But, honey, let me tell you what happened while I was at Trader Joe's today. So, I was at Trader Joe's today and I was checking out, and the cashier was like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" Because, I didn't have a lot of snack food. I had stuff that looked like it was going to be grilled. And I said, "Oh, I'm just going to be chilling at home doing my podcast." And she asked me what my podcast was. And I told her I was talking about movies. And then she asked me what movies I was talking about. And baby, when I got to Atlas with J-Lo, she made this face, and she was a Puerto Rican doll, right? And then she goes on and on to talk about how the Puerto Rican sisters are not claiming J-Lo. She did not grow up in the hood. She did not grow up in the Bronx. They're like, she went to a private school and they're just kind of over her. It made me laugh so loud that as the cashier was talking to me about J-Lo, another Latina sister walked up and said, "Are y'all talking about J-Lo?" And then she went in. This went on for like 10 minutes at the checkout at Trader Joe's. And I was like, "Ooh, why they hating on my girl J-Lo? I love J-Lo, but I don't know why she getting so much vitriol." But I had to share that with y'all because I was like, what is going on with my girl J-Lo? Insti-who. I digress. Let me talk about what I did this past week. But first, let me tell you this. I did a little thing about a year ago on a show called Act Your Age. At the time, it was on a platform called Bounce TV. It's kind of like a Brown Golden Girls, and it stars Yvette Nicole Brown, Kim Whitley, and Tisha Campbell. Yvette from Community, Big Shots, a plethora of other things, some voiceover stuff. Kim Whitley, she does stand up. She's, guest starred on everything from Curb Your Enthusiasm to The Neighborhood. And Tisha Campbell is quite honestly like a comedic sitcom legend. Like I don't even have enough words to describe her. But I play Rachel Nicole. My episode is episode 4. I am playing a real estate mogul who is likened to Oprah, and it is on Netflix. It has not been picked up for a second season. So if y'all could just do a sister a favor so I can make that insurance, as well as my sisters in the struggle, Yvette, Kim, and Tisha, and watch Act Your Age over at Netflix. It is streaming right now, the whole first season. If they get enough views, they will pick it up for a second season. So please help us out. And then this happened. I got my quote that was on Twitter retweeted by the If movie. And I talked about the If movie before. And what I said was that it's a magical cinematic hug with all the right tugs in the heartstrings. Who knew a film about imaginary friends would send me right back to my childhood in all the best ways? But it did. So if you have not seen If, which is produced by Paramount Pictures and starring Ryan Reynolds, please do yourself and check it out. I also was watching Turner Classic Movies with my mom, and then I saw this pop up on the screen. I am literally in a promo for Turner Classic Movies with this photograph right here with one of the hosts, Dave Karger, and the person taking the photograph is one of the other hosts, Jacqueline Stewart, who's also the director of the Academy Museum. So check out TCM. You might see me over there at some point. I ran over to Film Independent and I did a Q&A for a documentary that is produced by Nat Geo, is streaming on the Nat Geo streaming platform as well as Hulu and Disney Plus. It is called Queens. We've seen 5,000 documentaries about the male species of the jungle, but there has never been a documentary that focuses on the female counterparts, all hail the queens, until now. It is produced and shot and directed by Vanessa Berlowitz and Morgan Kibbe, who, by the way, is a recording artist. And I had the opportunity to speak with these queens, and we talked all about Queens, which is also narrated by another queen, Miss Angela Bassett. And then I took this little picture on the carpet as well. And then this is a photo of our little conversation that we had. After that, I went to the premiere, the world premiere of the Beach Boys documentary, which is streaming on Disney Plus right now. I'll get into that in a little bit. And then I was busy this week, y'all. And then I went to a sneak peek screening of The Wild Robot. It is a DreamWorks animation picture starring Lupita Nyong'o. She was there, so was the director. They gave us some insight. I can't really talk about it, but when I am able to talk about it, I will let you in on all of that. And then I left there and I ran right on over to Culver City to support Brian Wallach and his wife Sandra for their documentary For Love and Life, No Ordinary campaign, where I ran into my good girlfriend, Cameron Manheim. Cameron and I were co-stars on a CBS sitcom called Living Biblically. It lasted for about maybe 13 episodes and one season on CBS. I doubt that you can find it anywhere, but if you check out my acting reel, you'll probably see a couple of scenes from it. And it was moderated, the discussion was moderated by Katie Couric, who is in this picture to your right, all the way down on the bottom. She is also one of the producers of the film. And then after I did all that, if that wasn't enough, honey, a couple of nights ago, I went to the Hollywood Bowl because, as we know, I'm an actress and I was in The Lion King almost 30 years ago. And I played Shenzi, the role that Whoopi Goldberg does in the 1980s movie. Um, and I was nominated for an NAACP for that role. But they did a 30th anniversary production at the Hollywood Bowl where they celebrated the 1984 film, the 2019 live action version, and the Broadway versions. And they brought all that music and narratives and film footage from all of that together in that evening, which was about 2.5 hours. Jennifer Hudson was there. She sang Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Heather Headley, the original Nala, came out and sang Shadowlands, which is from the Broadway musical. And then we got this little surprise right here. That little girl in the yellow is Northwest. If you don't know that name, that is the daughter. She is, I believe, 11 years old. She is the daughter of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. So that was what I did last week. It was very, very busy. But before I get into anything else, I want to say happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope y'all gonna get some barbecue, some hot dogs, some hamburgers, some vegan stuff or whatever. Let me go on over to this chat room and see what's happening. Hey, Sav Productions, you becoming a regular. I kind of love you for that. Hey, hey. And thank you for hopping in. And also, of course, my boy Brandon has stopped by. He said he has so much fun with Garfield and can't wait for Inside Out. That's going to be great. He loves the original. Yeah. So I'm glad that you love Garfield, as I knew that you would. And you're going to love Inside Out too, as well. Oh, that NAACP nomination was like 20 years ago when I was 20 or 30 years ago when I did The Lion King. If y'all go on my social media page, you can see pictures of me as Shenzi in that white makeup with the black circles around my eyes somewhere on my social media pages. But I did that show for 3 years. I was in the original Los Angeles production that played at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles for 3 years. I did it from the day it opened to the day it closed. I was the original Shenzi in that production. So I had a good time. But let me get into these films, honey. So this Beach Boys movie, uh, it's a documentary, like I said, it is streaming on Disney Plus. And it was a trip because, to my knowledge, there hasn't been, I'll come back on camera for this. That's such bad grammar and bad English. I should know better. I'm a college graduate. Talking like I ain't got no education. Anyway, their bio docs, music docs seem to be, a lot of them are coming out now. Some of them have been derailed because of the pandemic for the last 3 years. And some of them, they're just now coming out for whatever reason. But there's a lot of them. Last week it was the Beatles. This week it's the Beach Boys. And the Beach Boys have their story, or some semblance of it, has been featured in other docs and narrative films. To my knowledge, the ones that I remember hearing about them in is a documentary called Echo in the Canyon, which came out a long time ago, and this feature called Love and Mercy with Paul Dano, where he played Brian Wilson, the composer and the genius behind the Beach Boys sound. But this documentary on Disney Plus is full of archival footage from the Wilson brothers themselves. The Beach Boys is comprised of three brothers, Brian, Chris, is it Chris? I think it's Chris. uh, Brian, Chris, and Dennis, and their cousin Mike Love. Those were the four Beach Boys. And they talk about how it was like a revolving door. All these different people were Beach Boys at one point, including Glen Campbell, which I was like, Glen Campbell was a Beach Boy? That was hilarious to me. Um, they talk about there are various musicians that give their opinion about it. I didn't know that there was like a rivalry going on between the Beach Boys and the Beatles, like a very healthy, creative, artistic rivalry, but there was a rivalry nonetheless. I didn't know that artists like Janelle Monáe were hugely inspired by the Beach Boys sound. That was something that was a bit of a revelation and something really nice to find out. But I also didn't know that their father, Murray Wilson, got upset with the boys because they fired him as their manager, and he sold the right. Are you ready for this? Now, the Beach Boys are responsible for that whole 60s California sound, right? Fun, 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 and Surfer Girl and all these other songs. Their father sold the rights to their music for $700,000 because he was mad that they fired him as their manager. He did not, by any stretch of the imagination, take into consideration that at some point this music was going to be iconic. These men were going to make billions of dollars off of this music because it gets sampled in commercials and films and documentaries all the time, but they don't own the rights to the music. They don't own the rights to the music, which my mouth dropped to my crack when I heard that. I was like, wow. So they have been struggling all this time to make ends meet because they don't own the rights to their own music. That happened with Berry Gordy, with the Motown catalog. That happened with the Beatles. It happens all the time where these iconic artists end up having to sell their catalog to make ends meet because their music is no longer selling at the fever pitch that it was when it came out. That made me really sad. But what's not going to make you sad is that soundtrack when you hear the Beach Boys music throughout the documentary. You're going to be toe tapping and wiggling in your seat and dancing and mouthing along with the words. And if you learn nothing else from this documentary, you learn that music has the innate ability to transcend gender, races, racism, hatred. Music is a universal love language, and the Beach Boys gave us all of that with their music. So if you have an opportunity to check it out on Disney Plus, please do. You will absolutely love it. You got jokes. Look at you. I can't. um, so that's that. I want to talk about now. Let me get into J Lo and her Atlas movie, honey. That the girls, that the Puerto Rican girls at Trader Joe's were not having. They were having none of her at all. So Atlas is streaming on Netflix. It stars Jennifer Lopez, Sterling K. Brown, and Simu Liu. If you remember Simu Liu's name, he was in the recent Barbie film that was a big smash last summer, and he was also the star of Shang-Chi, which is another which is a Disney property. Now the thing about this film that was interesting to me was the fact that, Netflix seems to love being in business with Jennifer Lopez. They did another action adventure movie with her called The Mother, and that was like the number one movie on Netflix for a really long time. So here they are again in business with her again after that. And I hate to say it, but the greatest love story ever told, and that other thing that I don't know if it was a music video or documentary or whatever it was about her life. I was like, oh, okay, girl, go back to the drawing board on that one. But anywho, I digress. Atlas is this action adventure film about this woman whose name is Atlas, and she has no trust of AI. She don't want to hear about AI. She don't want to deal with AI unless it's to turn on a light or a TV set. But she finds out that there is an AI generated human that threatens to dismantle humanity and the world as we know it. There's a little spoiler in there, so I'm not going to get into that. But what I will tell you is that this film is about trust. It's about chosen family. It's about family versus genetics. And it is Jennifer Lopez at her best. The one thing I'll say about her is that she's really great in action adventure movies. She's really, really great. And she's a better actress than some people give her credit for. She's kind of like, there's another actress who shall remain nameless, but a lot of people always kind of dog her out with her projects too. Jennifer Lopez is a good actress, and the fact that she's in her 50s with that banging body the way she is, and doing action adventure movies and just breaking down all the barriers and naysayers in Hollywood of what a Latina Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx can do or cannot do in cinema, I'm there for all of that. I liked the movie. I know some people weren't a big fan of it, but I liked it. Again, it's called Atlas, and it is streaming on Netflix. For Life and Love, No Ordinary Campaign. Let me tell you about this movie. This movie blew my socks off. It is going to be streaming on Prime Video beginning in a couple of days on May 28th. It centers around this ALS patient in the photo there to your right. His name is Brian Wallach. He and his wife, Sandra, um, it chronicles their fight for better funding and legislation for all ALS patients, not just him, who generally are given about a lifespan of 6 months to live. Brian's diagnosis, by the way, was 7 years ago. So whatever they're doing, it is working, and it is working in spades. And like I said in the beginning of the show, I went to a Q&A and caught the tail end of the documentary after I had viewed it the first time. So I saw the tail end of it for a second time. And afterwards, there was a Q&A with Katie Couric, who I also said is one of the producers. What this film will do is it will make you reevaluate your life, and it will make you want to do more with your life to make a difference for others and not be so selfish and self-focused as we often are in this society. Brian and Sandra have started an organization called I Am ALS. I Am ALS. And you can get all of the information that you need about that organization there. But these two met while Obama was campaigning. They worked on his campaign. They subsequently ended up working in his administration. They were, living their life. They were starting a family, doing all the things when Brian was having some issues, and he went to the doctor and shortly thereafter got diagnosed with ALS. Now, if you don't know what ALS is, it's the disease that's commonly referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. Lou Gehrig was a baseball player who got stricken with this disease, and it's a disease that strikes your neurological functions. So it messes with your brain and your motor functions. Your brain moves a little bit slower, so your cognitive skills like speaking, moving, gesturing, all of that stuff becomes a little difficult to navigate. And most people, when they get diagnosed with it, they have a lifespan of 6 months because there is no funding. There's no disability health insurance. But baby, now there is, because Sandra and Brian beat the hell out of Congress and Capitol Hill, and they have somehow got a legislative bill passed that allows $80 million to go toward the research and the disability insurance for ALS patients. Because the thing about ALS patients is when they get diagnosed with that and they have to go on disability, there's all these red tape rules and as far as people with disabilities are concerned, and you have to work or you have to go through physical there, you have to do all this stuff before they'll give you the money. If you have ALS, you can't do that. You're dependent upon other people. When I tell you, this documentary and the subject matter is vital for every American to watch. It is powerful. It will break your heart, but it will lift your spirit and make your spirit soar and sing. I promise you. Check it out on May 28th when it hits Prime Video on May 28th. All right, I said that. Before I get into Furiosa, let me get into Hitman. Now, I saw Hitman at Sundance earlier this year, and this was after it had already premiered in Venice last fall. I think it played at the Venice Film Festival last September. It stars Glen Powrll, who is also one of the producers and co-screenwriters. Richard Linklater is the director and co-screenwriter. And Glen Powell's name is coming up everywhere. Child, he is like the Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Robert Redford of this generation. Every time you turn around, he in a movie. I know he tired because I'm tired for him. I spoke with him a long time ago on a project that he was in called Devotion with Jonathan Majors before the shit hit the fan with him. But Glen Powell is easy on the eyes. He has a film that's streaming on Netflix right now called Anyone But You. But I digress. He stars as this straight-laced professor who inadvertently figures out that he can double as a fake hitman. And it's based on a true story from a 2001 Texas monthly magazine of the same name, written by somebody named Scott Hollingsworth. Now, this is the thing. It's very deceptive. You think this movie is gonna be one thing, and it turns out to be something else. So it's funny. It's got like a little film noir thing happening. It's got like a little romantic thing happening. There's a whole bunch of genres, and Glenn is in a bunch of different costumes. He's doing a bunch of mannerisms. He's got a bunch of different accents. It's a whole thing. But he meets this girl who's played by Adria Arjona. Now, if you know that name, she comes from the Andor franchise, one of the Star Wars series on Disney Plus, and she's been in a couple of other things too. She was in Morbius as well. But when he meets her character, and she wants to hire a hitman to kill her husband, but Glenn's character falls in love with her and saves her from getting entrapped. I know it's a lot and it's hard to follow, but trust me, when you watch the film, it'll all make sense. I promise you. Now, later, she bamboozles her way into his life, murders her husband herself for the insurance money. The story goes so far, and it literally goes into how far will a person go for infatuation, love, and personal happiness. It's deceptively dark. And like I said, it's based on the true story of this dude named Gary Johnson. It is bananas. The chemistry between Adria and Glenn, they freaking sizzle. Sizzle. Their chemistry is bananas. And if you want to see Adria again, outside of Hitman, she has a new film coming up called Blink Twice, which is going to be the directorial debut for Zoe Kravitz. But baby, I enjoyed this. I was at Sundance. They got a standing ovation at Sundance. Glenn and Richard were there, and they talked about it briefly on stage. It also stars Retta, who you guys know from Parks and Rec on NBC. Now, Furiosa. I know y'all been waiting for Furiosa. Furiosa is the latest in the Mad Max series. It's in theaters now for Warner Brothers. It's directed by George Miller, who also directed Fury Road. It's basically a prequel to Fury Road, and it has some phenomenally long sequential action scenes with Anya Taylor-Joy, who is absolutely phenomenal. Her and Chris Hemsworth lead the cast in this particular iteration. It's the production, the costumes, the sound, the makeup are all Oscar worthy, and it's worth all of that just to see it. A lot of people who are fans of the whole Mad Max series had some issues with it. I didn't have issues with it. I rather enjoyed it. I thought it was a little long, just a little bit, like maybe 15 minutes too long. And I felt like it was too long because some of those action sequences actually could have been a little shorter. But that's what Mad Max is. If you're going to go see a Mad Max movie, you know you're going to get costumes, you know you're going to get production value, you know you're going to get some bomb sound design, and you know you're going to get some action sequences that are going to go on till the end of time. That's just what it is. But it's beautifully shot. Anya Taylor-Joy she is like, I remember when I talked to Adria Arjona, I interviewed her for Morbius and for Andor, and she talked a lot about not wanting to be pigeonholed into a box in terms of what she was able to play, because she, is Latina, and oftentimes Latino women get pigeonholed in the box, as do Black women and women in general. but she was talking about how she didn't want that to happen for her career. Thus, her choices have been kind of all over the place in different genres and different things, which I applaud and I understand, and I'm there for all of it. The same thing with Anya Taylor-Joy. She had that big hit TV series, which depicted her as one thing, but every movie she has done since then is as far away from that television role as possible. And she is showing Hollywood that she is not unidimensional, but multidimensional. And I love that. I love that women in cinema right now, whether they are acting, producing, and or directing, are really just kind of holding it down. But yeah, that's it. I think this picture is from, yeah, so this picture is from when I went to the pre-screening of Furiosa. That's the bike, and they took some pictures of the movie, from scenes of the movie, and they hung them up all the way down the hallway, which was super super cool. I loved all of that. Now, I know I didn't have an interview for y'all, and every once in a while that happens. But I will come back with something next week. I'll let you know what it is. But when I also come back next week, I'll let you know some things there too. So let me just recap what I talked about. Check out The Beach Boys on Disney Plus. It is streaming right now. Hitman is in theaters right now with Adria Arjona and Glen Powell. Atlas is streaming on Netflix with Jennifer Lopez. The Garfield movie is in theaters. I talked about that last week, and the embargo had hit, so I couldn't really review it, but you can check out my review at my site, which is thecurvyfilmcritic.com. You can check out all my written reviews there, and all of the films that I have spoken of, with the exception of Hitman, are up. So I'm going to work on Hitman and get that one up for you. Next week, when I come back, I'm going to talk about Queen of the Deuce. I wanted to talk about that today, but didn't quite get to it. I'm also going to talk about a film called Am I Okay? Loved this movie with Dakota Johnson. I'm also going to review Robot Dreams, Young Woman at the Sea. I talked a little bit about that. We're going to that premiere. And then, of course, the movie of the summer that we all been waiting for. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad Boys 4 is finally hitting theaters with megastars, Academy Award winner Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. That is what I'll be talking about when I come back next week on June 2nd. I may have a few more titles for you. We'll see when I come back. But that is it for this episode of The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all got as much of a giggle out of that whole J-Lo situation as I did, because, baby, I hollered. It was funny. But if this is your first time joining me again, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. I don't know, you stop by. If you don't give me a big thumbs up, I'll be like, what happened to my people? They ain't give me the sign. They ain't give me the thumbs up. Click the bell for notifications. If you were on if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, or any other streaming platform, just holler at your girl. Give me a little comment. I'll write back. You know I do. I always do. Let me check these comments one more time. Thank you, Sarah Productions. I love that you always stop by and support a sister. Thank you. Mean it from the bottom of my heart. All right. So let me get up on out of here. I'm going to go get my barbecue and stuff ready for tomorrow. Prep my meat, put it in the refrigerator, get my fish ready, put it in the refrigerator, let that stuff marinate. And I will see y'all and catch you on the flip side. Thank you so much again. Bye. Ball to stop. Okay, there we go. The ball finally stopped rolling around, and now I can officially officially say goodbye. See y'all. Bye.